What's up YouTube, it's Lee again, and I've been meaning to make an introduction video for some time, and as you can see I'm obviously doing this backwards because this is like my fourth video or fifth video I think, I don't even remember. But I didn't want to seem like just some random guy ranting and displaying irritation and utter disdain for religion and theist arguments. So here we go. My mom, who's Puerto Rican, has always been religious. Grew up in a religious family. Became a born-again Christian and all that bullcrap. And which meant that I had to go to church when I was young. And, if anyone that gone to church, when they were really young, as you can tell, was boring as hell. No pun intended. But I do remember two things. I remember one, my dad never, ever had to go. He was lucky enough to get dropped off and get the fuck out. And I was bored. I was bored out of my mind. I remember falling asleep in the pews. I remember having to sit with these other kids, in the little Jesus daycare or whatever they had, while the adults were in Bible study. And I remember distinctly one day just sitting around, like, looking back and forth and going, how does anybody buy this? And I was in the second grade, so I'm beginning to figure it out in the second grade, like, this is all bullshit. And I begin asking questions like any little kid does, and they did not like questions at all. That was one of the things that, and it's not like they shut you up or anything, but it's just sort of dismissed, and a lot of times, a lot more bullshit stories, you hear like Noah's Ark and stuff like that, and you start asking questions, you're just being an inquisitive kid, and it was like, oh, it's possible because God made it possible. If you question hard enough, it's, do you doubt God's power? And as a kid, you're like, no, I don't know, like, all right, whatever, and so it became more and more of a pain in my ass to go. And so eventually I stopped going. I asked my dad or something, and since he wasn't going, it wasn't too much of an issue for me not to go. And I mean, quite frankly, I wanted to stay home and either play with my friends or watch cartoons or play video games or whatever, anything but having to go to church. And that's a particularly proud moment for me because I said to myself, I can always say to myself, you know what? I had this all figured out in the second grade. It's as simple as that. But as time went on, God was never, ever, 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 or religion, a part of my life at all. And you fast forward up until like my freshman year of high school, and you start taking other classes, and you get in discussions and debates and stuff because you're in high school, and God was never really that big of an issue. It was more like God's like my personal friend, like God, yeah, me and God are cool, I don't want to put any labels on myself, and I don't want to subscribe to any religion or whatever, or any faith, and I just have a personal relationship, and that was kind of my stance, and I still never went to church. I never read the Bible. I never had any dogma. I did all the bad things that every other kid does. But, in the back of your mind, it's always that, oh, God's there. He's watching over you, this and that. And that's coupled with the fact that, when someone does something wrong, or, you got a kid that's into drugs, or they're doing something, stupid, the default, to be a better person is to go to church, Well, that's what I heard a lot was, you got to get right with God, and, you got to go to church, and, when you straighten up, you go to church, that's what you do, and I never bought into any of that stuff. That stuff seemed like bullshit to me, too. But I just kept in the back of my mind that, that God was there, and he was, watching me or whatever, but that's about it. And then you fast forward a little more and you get into college. And this is the part that changes everything. I I took a class called Logical and Critical Thinking, and I took that class because one of my friends they took the class, and he just wanted a buddy to take the class with. Um, and the first time out, I failed the class. Honestly, I didn't do the work. I was having 3 hours sleep. I was working 2 jobs, um, and so I ended up dropping out anyway. I took it again next semester, and I took it, with some seriousness, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever learned in my entire life. Um, to learn how logical arguments work and how they're constructed and fallacies changed the way I see everything. And so whenever you're in college, so you have to get stopped in the quad or whatever when you go back and forth, and there's religious yahoos there, peddling their religion, and they stop you, you can immediately just bust off you can list the fallacies they give you. It's ridiculous, and so you just kind of look at things differently. All the claims for anything you look differently. And I've always been naturally skeptical of everything, so it just seemed like a natural sort of pathway to follow, from skepticism, and all that stuff. And I ended up I mean, I can't quite tell when I stopped being a theist. I just always knew that religion was just vile to me, and just bad, just left a bad taste in my mouth, And what I did learn is the more I learned about logic and rationale and all that stuff, and I started deconstructing arguments of people that made claims, the more I learned how little theists learned. They know very, very little about either their own religion, especially other religions, and just simple, basic, logic. And the more I learned, the more I learned about, having critical thinking skills, the more I learned how little they did. And it sort of became like a pet hobby of mine. And that pet hobby over time became a bit of a passion of mine. And so I've had many debates, not official debates, but, discussions and stuff like that. And I've had talks with, theists and atheists alike and stuff. And you'll be surprised, I'm surprised at least, and all these preconceived notions on things, or a general lack of understanding of how science works. And, it was one of those things that I thought about a lot, because when I met my current girlfriend, eventually we talked about having kids and stuff like that. And she also comes from a religious family. And, she had asked me, would I be upset if my child believed in God? And I said no. I would be not upset. I would be disappointed. But I would love my kid no matter what, And she said, why? And I said, well, I would hope that my kid was educated enough to, to think about these things, in a way that would bring him to a rational conclusion. But I would never teach my kid what to think, and that's one of the things that I disliked most about religion. I would never tell my kid what to think. I would try to teach him how to think, and he can arrive at his own conclusions. My mom, with no malice in her heart, attempted to indoctrinate me, and, that's how it goes. I have friends that have been indoctrinated, and for all intents and purposes, they're atheists, but they just can't let that sort of thing go. That last bit, they live completely, they've lived completely, not completely immoral, but, they make some questionable decisions, right? But God still exists, and they don't, it's kind of a weak position. But anyway, I'm kind of on a tangent, but that's a little about me. Right now, I'm 37 years old. I got a little bit of experience under my belt, and I've been commenting a lot on YouTube and stuff like that. It seems like where the wackos go, and the yahoos to post. But Anyway, that's a little about me. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you really, really like it, subscribe to the channel. But anyway, this is Lee. I'll talk to you later. Bye.